meeting, but it's good to see everyone. 2023. Yeah, and I don't know all of what this year is going to hold, but I'm excited for what it could hold for New Visions, because I know one big thing that is on the horizon is starting hybrid meetings where those who want to be in person will have the option to be in person. But what I want to do for this time is basically leave us, just create space, open space for anything that anybody wants to share, anybody wants to talk about. I'll kick off with just some practical things, but then I wanted to, open it up and see if there are things that people are kind of like we were just doing low key off the record, if there are things that people wanted to process, if there's any questions people have, if there's any broader topics people wanted to talk about. But so I'll just start with some practical things, and then Sheena, I'll toss to you in case there's anything you want to share. And if there's not, no worries. And then we'll open it up. But so like I mentioned, we are looking at doing hybrid get together. There's one big thing that I need from members, and I think most of you have probably already done this, but those who are listening later on can make sure they do this. But there is a short, I think it's 3-question survey that I've been putting out in the emails. And the purpose of that is to gauge when would be best for folks. When would be the most conducive time for us to meet that would get the most amount of folks? So traditionally, historically, we've always had it on Saturday mornings. And I have gotten feedback throughout the years of folks saying Saturdays just don't work for me. I've also gotten feedback through the years of folks who are like, I like Saturday, please keep it Saturday. Right now, where we are is we do not have a consensus among the body of New Visions, which makes it hard to know how to move forward, because the other element that makes this tricky is the places that I would want to use for an in-person can't do this time. Saturday at 9 a.m. can't do this time. And so it's made a little tricky for us to land. I could probably go back to Sarah and Garland Jones Center, but I prefer not to because it's not in our geographic footprint. And so the one thing that will help though is if I can get, I don't feel like I have enough feedback from the New Visions body to be able to feel like I've got a large enough voice from folks. So all that to say, this is my 2023 push for everyone who hears it now or later. If you haven't done the survey, do the survey, share your thoughts. And then we'll use that to make an informed decision on what works for the majority of New Visions. And I have a few other options that I'm going to press into based on that, including a few local churches to see if there's some spaces that they might be able to open up if we're looking at doing a Saturday still. So anyways, that's where that is. I do want to go in person sooner than later, but I can't set that until we feel confident about the day and time. So there's the update on that.
Hey, Paul.
Yeah.
Where is this survey? How do I access that?
I can, I'll tell you what I'll do is I'll actually find that link in a moment, and I will, I'll throw it into the chat.
Okay.
I'll
also, two things as far as the space. I mean, I see that you have the Robinson on your Facebook page. Is that a possibility?
So I'm on the board of the Robinson, so I've got an inside lead. The tricky thing with the Robinson is that would only be a possibility if it was during the day, during the week, because outside that place is booked out. Saturdays particularly, it's the only way it would, the only other time would be like a Sunday morning is the only other time. I don't think that it's locked out, which is not good for a lot of folks. My church is at 4 at the Robinson, so it works for me. But
just another thing to put out there. Have you checked with the Franklin Military Academy? I live right across the street from them, and they have allowed us to use their cafeteria area for meetings before.
I'm the
interested.
PSA president there.
Yeah, so she would also have the inside source. That my concern there would be the same as with the Sarah Garland Jones Center, is wanting to keep it inside the geographic footprint New Vision, so like in the Fairmount neighborhood, largely because like for me wouldn't be too much problem because I could just drive to it, but neighbors who have limited mobility, don't have a vehicle,
Right.
you know. So some of the places, just to be honest, some of the places that I've been looking at include I talked to the VCU Health Hub. I don't actually. I had intended to talk to the market, and I don't know that I actually talked to them, but they have a little community space there, so that's been on my mind. I've talked to the library. They don't open till 10 on Saturdays. They would love to have us back, but it would later Saturday morning was some feedback that I got from people that it's like, you know, I can do 9, but once you start getting later in the morning, then you're getting into my Saturday. And then, like I said, there's a few local churches that I know have physical space, and it's just about the partnership there and their willingness to like come out and unlock the doors or give me a key. And so, I think there are options, but again, you know, some of these, it's helpful for us to know if like the majority of folks were like Saturday, if you did it on a Monday evening, I would be more likely to come. If suddenly I found out that the majority of New Vision members were saying that, then I would want to entertain that. And then that's a whole other, you know. Go ahead, Sheena.
There were 21 responses to the survey that went out in reference to, you know, seeing what time works best for everyone. And out of the 21, only 5 of them said yes, they want to keep the Saturday mornings.
Yeah.
So the consensus really is to change it to either a Monday evening or a Tuesday evening, for the most part, when I was reading through all the data.
Now, the one problematic piece with that data is of those 21 responses, the majority of those are from 2021. And so that's the problem, is like those were the feelings of folks. The question is, a year and some change later, are those still the same feelings of those folks? Because it's a survey that I've put out earlier. And so, yeah, but to your point,
but even the 1 out of 5, like, because it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 5 responses for this year, and only 1 out of the 5 wanted to keep the Saturday morning.
Yeah.
So that's still a roughly almost the same ratio.
Yeah. Well, and that's something that I've been seeing too. Now, here's the other piece is, and this is where it gets really tricky. What a lot of that feedback represents is there's a lot of folks who aren't consistent, but are saying that they would be consistent. And what's hard is often a lot of the voices that want Saturday are also ones that have been more consistent. And so then you had this element of the folks who have been consistent would come on Saturday, but might not. And the folks that have not been consistent would say they would come. Anyways, you get what I'm saying. It's like, so this is why I want to get current updated feedback from more people, so then we can see, okay, these are the folks that we know will definitely come if it's this day. These are the folks that this is how they're feeling. This is what we should do. So anyways, other feedback while we're talking about this that anybody has. Let's hang on this for a second.
Well, the only thing I know, I have, I'm on a fellowship, a board, and I'm getting ready to join another board, and typically they meet on Mondays. But if it's going to be like consistent, like the first Monday of the month, that shouldn't be any overlap. I'm retired, so I'm flexible. Like Saturday may be problematic, you know, late in the day if I have appointments, because I do real estate, but right now everything's kind of slow. And so I would like to be able to have it at a time where it's going to be set in stone and I can kind of put it on my calendar and work around it. And I understand, you know, we got a lot of young people, they got children, they have activities on Saturday. People who belong to churches have choir rehearsal. Some
Yeah.
people just don't want to do anything
Yeah.
on Saturday.
Yeah.
Hey. And so
Yeah.
I would do, like, if it's the first Monday of each month, I could do that. Or
Yeah.
if it's a Tuesday, the first Tuesday of each month, because it's not like we're gonna meet every, on a weekly cycle. So, but
Yeah.
I would say now, the other issue with meeting at night, you'd have to either do probably 7 or 7:30, at least for people who work and have children and have to get home, get
Yeah.
the babies fed, decompress, and get their heads turned around so they can come to the meeting. But I think the market would probably be a good place. The marketplace, that's a nice room, but we would probably have to do it earlier, or if we do it during the week, because what time do they close? 9?
I think that's, yeah, I don't know what the new times are.
Well, when I spoke with Mohammed, they will keep the room open for us if we need it.
Okay.
So honestly, it's just us to solidify the time that we're going to do the meeting. The ball is in our court.
Yep.
And technically, being a data person, even when I ran data for Nespresso, whatever data we have is what we ran with. No matter how many people took the survey or not, it's literally what shaped what was happening.
Yeah.
If the same consensus is still going to continue, let's say the 2%, like I see, are close, they're the same from last year's data and to this year, then it's time to make a change, because doing the same thing over and over again, it doesn't get you anywhere.
Yep. Yeah. Sorry, I was distracted for a little bit there. I was trying to find the form, so I'm fully with you on now. Yeah, and I do think so. Here's the other piece with data is, so this is the form data, and then I also have a lot of what's the word I'm looking for when it's like conversational or just in person. There's some word for that, and there's been some strong feedback around Saturday. Now, some of this is a timing thing, but some of it is around the history element of like, this is how things are, which is a good thing sometimes, also is not a good thing sometimes, right? And so, yeah, so and personally, I also feel like for what you're talking around the reality is there is no perfect time, right? Like Saturday mornings are great for a lot of reasons and not great for other reasons. Evenings are great for a lot of reasons, not great for a lot of reasons. Like I know personally as a parent, evenings are very, very busy. But what you said, Frida, to your point, what we're really talking about is one day out of the month. And so because there's no perfect time, I think we can find a way to make whatever time work if we're talking like once out of the month. So anyways, I wanted to give everyone one more chance to give feedback, because like Sheena said, whatever we have is what we've got to roll with. And so this is the last call. Like if you want to get your voice heard, now is the time to do it, because we are going to make the shift. So any other comments or thoughts on that before we move on to something else?
Rita, what do you think?
I'm kind of flexible, but I kind of like the idea of the afternoon after work, maybe 7, like was suggested. Give me time to get from work and whatever I need to do before I sit down for a meeting.
Yeah.
So, that will work out. But I mean, I'm really flexible.
Yeah.
I'm used to the Saturdays, but it's whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm used to Saturdays as well, but Monday can work. I'll tell you, can have light refreshments. That'll get them come in.
And honestly, it can highlight our refreshments can come from a local business.
Yeah.
And that way, having the local business input, they'll also promote that we're going to do, our meeting on, this Monday evening as well. So it's like, hey, we have an order, and then just build these partnerships within the area. Like the area has several new restaurants that we can definitely partner with and say, hey, we would absolutely love to have you, donate or cater or whatever one of our events. And just give them a background about the organization as well.
Yeah.
And that way it gets their business out there, they leave their business cards, and then we also have, food,
Yeah.
refreshments.
I know Soul and Vinegar are reopening.
Yeah.
And I know Jay Scott as well as I don't know Muhammad, but I know Jay Scott at the market. He's very community minded because that organization has partnered with him for donating boxes at Christmas and Thanksgiving. And they could probably do something maybe in the deli, maybe do some like deli trays or something and promote it on their community page. And on their Facebook page as well. So yeah, I think, if we have a little budget, maybe for the first kickoff meeting there, we would have refreshments, but not necessarily at every meeting there after. Make it like an open house meeting.
Although if we're at the market, sometimes they have those like the end of the day items that like are still good, but they haven't sold. And so they might even be like, look, y'all are meeting in the evening. You go ahead and take this. They're like, still good.
The market is a good place to do it because they're known for community events as well. And they're in a space where when we meet in their community room, you can actually see that there's people meeting there. So a lot of that foot traffic will come in and say, hey, like what's going on here? And it's like, well, it's the New Vision Civic League.
Well, and my thought too was what I liked about doing it there is that someone who might be dragging their feet come into a New Visions meeting might be inclined to say, oh, but I need to do some grocery shopping too, so I could go to the meeting and shop afterwards. So
that
anyway,
would be
I'm leaning towards the market at 25th Street on a Monday or Tuesday.
Well, and I will say, Frida and Rita, y'all are like the tried and true. Like y'all are consistently at meetings. And so that's one thing that speaks to me, like, if y'all are saying you have flexibility, like that what you want means something to me. Y'all carry some weight.
And if push came to shove, like if say Miss Braxton or Miss Thompson or somebody didn't want to drive, since we all live in the area, I think between Rita and I hope we could probably pick them up, scoop them up, take them to the meeting and take them back home.
Yeah, because we have to keep in mind too, if we're talking about changing to an evening, we're also talking about the element of driving at night, which for some people is a non-starter, or even walking at night is a non-starter. And so that's good to name that, because how can we incorporate that community element of knowing our neighbors and saying, oh yeah, I can scoop up so and so.
Because we don't want them to feel excluded.
Correct.
Change is coming. I don't identify with the seniors, but I understand from a senior point. That's a running joke of mine. So I'm leaning towards that. I mean, I know we don't have a quorum here to vote on it, but I think that would be better, because then people would be, because even if you work a 4-day week, even if you telework, for people who work, they want their weekends to themselves. So if you can get all of your meetings and running around the community commitments out of the way, except for when we had special events. That's different, gatherings like community cleanup or something like that. That's a little different.
Yeah. Well, and again, I'll also note, as far as folks who maybe struggle with getting places, my plan is to, from now on, there to still be this element. It just won't be me in my little room with bad lighting. I'll have, at the very least, I'll have computers set up so anybody who can't be there physically can join virtually, and I'll continue to record. So that's been one of the other things too, by the way, that when I've looked at locations, some places are set up really well for that. Like the VCU Health Hub, they've got the TV up on the screen. They've got the, same thing with Sarah Garland Jones, the camera, they've got the mics. And so it's really conducive to that. Other spaces like the library, and I'm guessing maybe the community room, aren't set up for that. So it would mean like someone who's watching, they might not be able to engage as easily because it's the microphone on, or the microphone on my computer. And go ahead, Sheena.
Well, they have upgraded at the library.
Every room, because I teach there sometimes, every room at the Boys and Girls Teen Center down the street on 9 Mile Road, they actually, every room is outfitted to be able to have that capability.
Yeah. Well, and so my thing there would be the same as what I was telling Chris and with Sarah Garland Jones is we're getting further and further from the geographic footprint.
Okay.
And so at that point, I would do Sarah Garland Jones since we've already been doing it there. And but being in the footprint, and there's a few things for me, there's some values. Being within the geographic footprint is a big deal. It just, for me, it's like, it's weird to not meet where like our community is that we're representing, but also for the accessibility to like capacity to stream is important, but all that means is at the very least, is there an internet connection? And then I could work with it. If it doesn't have the bells and whistles, because like the library, that's one thing they were saying is they don't have like a camera mounted like the Sarah Garland Jones, and but like they do have the internet. And and then another thing that's a value is this a way that can we use this to also support locally? And so us being at the market, for example, supports the market. That's a really valuable addition. And so I'll say this, like for me personally, my aim is to be flexible. And as I've said for the last few years, my role as president is not to push my own will. It's to try to discern the collective will of the body of the community and then work towards that. So I'm going to have conflicts, with a lot of these different options, but I'm going to find a way to make it work because that's my role and responsibility. So what we're going to do is I've done the official push. It's the link to the form is in the chat. If you haven't done it yet, it's also in the email that goes out. If you haven't done it, or if you haven't done it in a couple years, go ahead and fill it out. And at the February meeting is when we're going to make an official decision, and whoever is at that meeting, we'll put it to a vote and make it official. And so I'm hoping that by the spring, then we will transition into whatever and wherever all this means. So
as someone who's new here, the February meeting, is that going to be the first Saturday of the month? I mean, is that sort of the game plan as it stands?
That is currently still the plan. First Saturday, 9 a.m. on this link, which is on the New Visions webpage. Same deal. It's it'll always be the same link, same number for those who call in. And then, whatever it ends up being later on in the year. Sheena, did you, is there anything you wanted to share or talk about?
I do know that a part of this is also making sure we have education at the top of mind as well, and how a lot of the things that we talk about will affect the school systems or just even education systems here in our small part of the area of Richmond. And there's going to be a community vote. As you know, we're going into let me read it before I say the wrong thing. Before I say the wrong thing. Hold on. I have to pull it up because I did receive an email from Virginia PTA.
Okay.
And they are looking, come on. Okay. So the General Assembly, starts on the 11th and runs for 45 days. And during the session, there's going to be different calls to actions, opportunities for public comment. So on they have webinars that are going to help you understand, help parents and the community understand the changes in legislation around education and how it'll affect your communities. And there's several things that are going to be, I mean, over 100 different articles and legislative changes that will also affect the landscape of how we would operate with the education system here in Virginia. And they're asking for everyone's input. So I'll be sharing this with you, Paul, so that it can get out and let others know in the community. We have one of the East End alone has the most quiet stance when it comes to the legislative pushes. But then we have a very loud stance if something goes wrong individually, as far as, you know, the home ownership taxes or where the money is going for education and resources. So I believe that this is some information we can share. That way, there's also that opportunity for those, maybe the newcomers are more active rather than those who sort of have an apathy, when it comes to how legislation affects education and our surrounding area. So I'll forward that to you, and hopefully that can go out in one of the emails.
That sounds good. That's good. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, and that's while as long as I've been here, it's been really interesting following, like you said, how education is and isn't engaged within our area. And man, we've made the news at times for some of the things.
Yes.
So, but it matters. We have a lot of kids that live in our community, and education matters. And speaking into that is incredibly important. So when we have opportunity, we should definitely take advantage of it, whether or not we have kids or whether or not our kids go public schools. It still matters for our neighbors.
Correct, because the businesses, like, it's going to affect, this new legislation is affecting businesses that are started here. It's affecting what's going to be built in our area in the empty lots, as well as the price, I guess, the market for homes here in the area.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that.
And what legislation is this again?
Oh, there's several. So the General Assembly itself is going to meet, and each have their own, each representative, they have their own set of legislation they're going to speak to, and this is going to be voted on. So it's through the Department of Education, but it's also going to affect zoning and other things that the trickle down effect. Yes, Ms. Rita.
Is there a link or somewhere where you can get on the mailing list, email list for notifications and updates like you do for the zoning board? You know, where you can kind of like know what's coming up and receive information. Does the General Assembly provide that type of notification?
The link that they have for that, I'm gonna send it to Paul and he's gonna distribute it to
Okay, I probably had okay, that's great.
Because then that way it'll go out to everyone that, you know, that's a part of New Visions as well.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing, Sheena.
Thank you.
Side note, while I'm thinking about it, if you haven't driven by R19th, Project Homes has a project that's going up right now. I think it's 5 houses. So it's something worth glancing over at if you're ever driving by that way. I'm hoping, I've been trying to get them to come and share. I first started 2021, and then we just kept running into different issues, but I'm going to push to have one of them share, because there's a lot that Project Homes does, but I do want them to share about this actual set of homes, and they're working to make it affordable, but also to be able to share a few of the other things that they're doing that are, I mean, my family has benefited from some Project Home stuff. So yeah, Frida. Okay,
well, you talk to them about these 2 lots. Ms. Thompson and I were concerned about, and I know Rita probably is too, at 23rd, at the corner of 23rd next to the piles. I think
Okay.
they own those 2 lots, and they're supposed to be, they do a great job of keeping the grass cut.
Mm-hmm.
And although people think it's a dog poop park over
Yeah.
there. And
Uh-huh.
they know, yeah, but that's another story.
Yeah.
But yeah, see if they have anything in the pipeline for that. I know they're narrow lots, but they built 12-foot houses before.
Mm-hmm.
And I had 2 things on my mind,
Yeah,
if
go
I
for it.
could. You know,
Yep, this is the time.
the church on the corner of 22nd and Q is
Uh-huh.
up for sale.
Okay. Huh. I didn't
Yeah,
know
and
that.
yeah, well, I know because I saw it on the thing, and they've got a big bus parked at the corner that blocks your view when you're trying to cross the intersection.
Yeah.
But they're for sale, and I'm curious as to what it's going to be because we have mixed zoning.
Mm.
So I'm pretty sure somebody probably will want to pick it up for commercial use and maybe an apartment above.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I doubt if another church will buy it.
Yeah.
So that's gonna problem. I've been watching it. It's not under contract yet, but it is for sale. I think the price is 340,000.
Okay. Huh.
And also, all of this is technically not in our area, but just so you'll be aware, there's a lot of talk and stuff going on because Mosby North cut down all the trees.
Oh,
I saw that on social media.
I did not
Yeah,
know
but
that.
that's technically in because people were having discussion whose district it is, but it's in Ellen Robertson's district, from what I understand.
Hmm.
And they didn't tell the residents or anything. And
Yeah.
I know I heard tree cutting in the neighborhood, but I wasn't quite sure where it was. So
Well,
they
there
went
there
to,
have been so I know Project Homes cut a bunch of trees recently where they're building the houses, and that's fine because they're building the houses there. But also several trees have been cut in Lower Mosby as well, like big
yeah,
trees.
they got some video. If you go to Churchill neighborhood, people have posted pictures where
Hmm.
they've cut down healthy, mature oak trees. Allegedly, the rumor was that they were affecting the plumbing and the pipes or
Okay.
something. But they didn't get the residents notification, and people are concerned because of displacement and in the air quality, and the trees provided shade,
Right.
and those buildings are concrete.
Can I
Anyway,
jump in just one
already.
second?
Chris has got
Go
some.
ahead, Chris.
So I am involved with the Churchill Central Civic Association,
Okay.
and they have a land use committee.
Mhm.
They actually meet on the 11th. So it's usually like every I believe it's the second Wednesday of the month that they meet. That is a great resource to find out all these questions that you're asking, because this actually came up at the last meeting and they were going to be looking into it. There's a gentleman named Mark Olinger that is very involved with that. I honestly, I'd say he's sort of the de facto leader. He was once a city planner. He was on the planning commission. So I am literally involved with this just so that I get this information. They're trying to do this huge development project, redevelopment for the Bacon senior community, like directly behind my house. They're trying to drop homes in all along our back fences and that sort of thing. So again, I have found them to be a very good resource for getting the information that you're seeking. Again, that's the Churchill Central Civic Association. And it's open. Anybody's welcome. They meet at the Health Hub. They also have Zoom links. If you're interested, if you wanted to give me your email address when they send me the link for the next meeting, I'll be happy to send that over to you.
Okay, Paul, will you share my email with him, please?
Yeah.
Thank you. Since you already have both of us, I figure it's easier for you to do it. I'm adding it to my calendar.
By the way, I did pull up the it is the church at 1022 North 22nd Street is listed for 345,000. And yeah, it would be interesting to see. Yeah, I didn't realize that had gone up. It's a very unique building, the way that it's set up. So it'd be interesting to see what they do with it. Like if they did go the direction, it would be a unique apartment setup if it was apartment on the top, but it's Yeah, I can't find the size of it, but it's a large
Oh, wait a
building. So
minute. What's the address? I can let you know.
1022 North 22nd. It's going for $92 a square foot. I can give you that. Oh, there it is, 3750.
Yes, 3,000.
3,750 square feet. So I'm wondering, at that size and at that price, based on how much things cost in the area, I'm wondering how much work it needs done on it. Because 340, there are houses going for 345 that are a fraction of that size. So I'm wondering what work it needs and if how much zoning plays into it. Yeah, that's something that'd be, to your point, it's good for us to keep an eye on, and particularly, yeah, depending on what begins to develop and if there's anything that is concerning, that we would be able to speak into that as new visions. So yeah, thanks for sharing that. And let's I'll see what I can learn about the tree situation, but that Chris's lead on that meeting is really helpful.
I just texted you the listing for it.
Awesome. Yeah, I just saw that come through. My phone just started buzzing. Everybody was sending me stuff right at that moment. And to the point on the tree thing, it is a hard one, because on one hand, yeah, the bigger trees get, the bigger their roots get, and our city infrastructure with plumbing and all that kind of stuff is not good. And so yeah, that could cause a lot of damage. At the same time, also to your point, I forgot what it's called, but there is a term for the way that heat kind of plays out in different areas. And out in the country where you got a lot of trees, it could end up being like 20 degrees, functionally 20 degrees cooler than Upper Mosby, where the trees have been cut down and there's a lot of asphalt and a lot of non-permeable surfaces. And so it's a really big deal, the heat difference and the impact of heat. And that's why a lot of cities are actually working on planting more trees. In fact, like, that's something that Richmond has. They have a arborist division, and they go around and they plant trees along city streets because they recognize how important it is to have trees. And so, when we were talking at the start, we were talking about how you have different departments doing different things. And I wonder if there is a holistic understanding of if a tree does need to go. Like, because sometimes a tree looks healthy to us, but it's actually got dangerous rot inside, and it's just a matter of time. Like, okay, like I can get that, but what's being done to mitigate the loss of that tree? Like, what's being done to address that? And what's particularly hard for us is the type of trees that we're talking about aren't like a cute cherry tree around the corner that, it goes down, but you can plant another one, and in 5 years, you got a new one that's about the same. We're talking about 100-year-old trees that are 40, 50 feet tall and provide an immense amount of shade, that we're going to need another 40, 50 years before we see that replicated, providing the same value. And so I think that's my big concern, and especially if it starts to hit our geographic footprint, is to your point, what is the communication and transparency around these projects? Like, how are people being let known? Are they being told why it's happening? Like, is there good communication? And is there a holistic response around the full impact of that? Not just we're addressing the pipes, but also what about the shade? What about the quality of life? What about the aesthetics? Like, all these things, how are we holistically addressing this, rather than someone coming through and just chopping down the tree and then leaving?
Well, two things that come to mind. There's a guy, I don't know who it is, but he's walking through, I guess, with his phone doing a narration. And the trees look healthy. They're showing them, as they're being cut. And I think the other issue is that because it's Richmond Redevelopment and Housing Authority, they may have some leeway in, autonomy, independent.
They got their own jurisdiction, and yeah.
Because I know when I was interested in doing an ADU in the backyard, they asked me about trees. I was like, really? They want to know if I had any trees that were on city property that would be affected. And so if you go out, and so somebody said follow the lumber to see where the lumber was going, to maybe find out who was profiting from these trees being cut down, because all intents and purposes they look like healthy oak trees. And yeah, so I'd be curious too. And so, people put out there they wanted answers, but I haven't seen any official response from Ellen Robertson anywhere, Richmond Redevelopment and Housing. I think Cynthia Newbill was glad it just wasn't in her area.
Right.
But change.
Yeah. Well, and to that end, if the worst case scenario in these kind of things is that there isn't any notice, there's no marks on the trees, no signs, anything like that, and someone just comes and it's gone, and then nobody ever knew. But insofar as that doesn't happen, one thing that we could be doing is, if we see that a tree has been noted for removal or anything like that, that's actually been particularly in further south in Churchill, around Broad and Grace and all that. There have been stories of trees that were set to be removed, and people put their foot down and fought it and saved trees. So if there are important trees in our community, there are ways to go about addressing that. It's obviously not foolproof, but Cynthia Newbill is one of those, we can contact her. So ultimately, let's keep our eyes open. As you noted, right now it's in the other district, but if we start seeing it happening in our district, we can work to get answers. Go ahead, Frida.
I have one more thing too. If you notice, in recent years, the city has been using more independent third-party contractors to do their street work. So the other morning, they came and closed our street.
Yeah, they did. I saw that.
You saw my picture, right?
I didn't see your picture. I saw them out there, though.
Yeah, well, I posted a picture, and they drilled a hole in the ground, put 2 cones up, and then they left. And they never came back. I don't know whether it was because of the rain, but I noticed one week, I got landlocked in Churchill. Because they had a street closing on Venable road work. They had another one on Mosby near Mechanicsville, and they had another one on 9 Mile Road. 9 Mile Road is the worst because the detours just led you in a circle. Because I think the people who are doing it, because they're third-party contractors, they're not familiar with how to navigate.
Yeah.
So there is no set detour. So the detour took you back to 9 Mile Road, which took you back down the street where it was closed. So it was a hot mess over there near the new the development and stuff. And so I don't know if they're required to give us notification of street closings, but I'm pretty sure for people who have to get up and go to work, it can be problematic trying to get out of the neighborhood in the buses, in the school buses and all that. So
yeah,
I don't know who this company is, but I think they may have had the wrong block.
Yeah. Well, and the hard part too is I don't know that there is a requirement. There should be. You would think that there would be, but I mean, even as far back as, this was either 2015 or 2013, because it was when one of my kids had just been born. I started hearing a lot of noise outside, and this was when we were on Fairmount, and our entire block was closed down. There were all these different types of trucks all over the place, this giant pile of gravel dumped in the middle of the road, and then our van, literally boxed in by this gravel and these trucks. And I had to back out and weave through all this to get out. And we didn't get any notice or anything like that. And so I think it is hard that I don't think that might not be a requirement, even though it should be. And then when you bring in the element of independent contractors, that might have even less requirement, then it leaves us in these hard places. I was kind of wondering if the work that you were seeing when I drove by it, I wonder if maybe stuff is starting to happen with 2200 Carrington, that we talked about a few years ago, the big corner project that at some point is going to happen. I wonder if maybe that's an indicator that that's about to start going.
Refresh my memory. What's supposed to be happening there?
So in that big open space, it's going to basically commercial on the bottom, and it's going to be more or less a triangle. So it's going to come to that point. And then I want to say 9 apartments.
Are you talking about the property trailer owns?
Yeah, I think it is. It's right there at, I mean, is that 22nd and Carrington?
At Tulip Street?
Let's see. I'll pull up that big empty space, big empty lot that comes to a point.
No, they were down here at 23rd.
Oh, so they were doing stuff at
23rd and Q.
Okay, when I passed by, there was work happening also on, at some point they were doing something and closed off that street at the 22nd end of it. So your street's just been having all kinds of good stuff going on.
Yeah.
So yeah, these are all good things. So the streets, trees, all kinds of stuff. I do want to see it's 8 minutes, so I wanted to leave space in case Rita, Chris, if y'all had anything y'all wanted to put on the hypothetical or the virtual table.
I'm just interested in learning more about what you guys do and seeing how I can be involved.
Awesome. Well, this is a good meeting to get a nice little taste of all of it. Yeah.
There's a new store on 25th Street. The florist didn't make it. The flower shop didn't
Ron,
make it.
At the market.
On 25th Street.
Oh, okay. Oh, I know what you're
at
talking
the
about.
police station. Yeah, they didn't make it, but it's another store on that corner.
Yeah, it's like
It looks
odds
like
and ends and like decorative things and
yeah.
Where was this?
Down the street from the police station on 25th Street.
Oh, just across from the liquor store?
Yeah.
They just opened, what, last month?
Yeah, it's supposed to be some kind of wing plate chicken. Is a chicken?
Well, there is also, so there is a chicken place there too.
Oh,
you're talking about the little gift store.
Yeah, there's a gift store. It's basically it's that long connected set of buildings that's P.O.P. It's at P Street, P and 25th.
Right.
So those buildings directly across the street is that tiny little triangle building that was supposed to be J.R. Cricket's chicken back in like 2018, and then nothing ever happened with it. Across P Street from that is the now white building that is, they just put a sign out front that it's going to be some chicken place.
Korean style chicken, yeah. I saw that. And if you haven't had that, it is.
Is
it's
it good?
The stuff. Oh yeah.
Yeah, my son saw it. He's getting
never had it.
Tell me, he's interested.
Okay.
And for the record, Hawks is out for sale. They didn't open. They open for one day, maybe.
I know. Hawks
I
Barbecue.
saw that. I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah. They put a lot of work into all the aesthetics of that. And I drive by and say, all right, well, I guess no barbecue today.
Yeah. No fried fish.
Yeah.
Wow.
One day.
And Fat Rabbit seems to be doing all right in the location that was Pomona, and before that it was the soda place. Can't remember what it's called, but that place has had nothing's lasted there more than a couple years. So we'll see.
I checked out Fat Rabbit recently. They've got some good stuff, but you got to take out a loan.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like I would compare it to WPA if you ever had WPA. It's that kind of like pastry shop. It's good, it's tasty, but it's like
$6 a slice of cake.
Yeah, it's on the it's the pricey kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So all right. Well, anything else anybody has in our last few minutes?
So this particular organization, you guys are involved in like community outreach and all that sort of thing as well?
Yeah. So the quick history is New Visions. The main geographic focus is from like Mosby to 25th, from Carrington to Fairmount. But realistically, these boundaries are just guidelines, right? Because things that impact one area tends to be fluid. Sometimes there's hyper local things, which we'll really hone in on, like a building that was on Fairmount that was people kept wanting to make it into a corner store. And we're like, there's a corner store literally half a block. We don't need to be a corner store.
Yeah.
Let's get something for the community. And we pushed and pushed and pushed, and eventually something did happen there. But we've been going since '94, and there's always been this big drive. It's the tagline is help neighbors helping neighbors, but it has historically been a group of typically neighbors who are seeing what the neighborhood needs in order to thrive and really pushing on it. And so there's been a really good established reputation, particularly like Mary Thompson. Everybody knows her name in all the different spheres because she would just be up in these different issues and helping to push with housing issues. And so that's, the needs in the neighborhood is constantly changing. So like right now, I think a big thing we've been focusing on is affordable housing. And so we've used a lot of these meetings to highlight some of the entities that are engaging in those spaces. The Maggie Walker Community Land Trust, they came in late last year, trying to get project homes in. Urban Hopes come in and talked, and just trying to figure out how can we utilize what this entity represents, the voice of the community, a body of neighbors, folks who have been committed or connected. How can we use that to help push change that needs to happen? Go ahead, Frida.
And answer to your question, Chris, oftentimes we hold developers accountable. We have them come to our meetings, share their plans with us. The Civic League associations in Churchill carry a lot of weight with zoning and architectural review board. We have been called on at times to submit letters to them, and I go down there and appear and speak yea and nay against the project. Like they wanted to put a cafe at the end of my corner instead of apartment building. I live in the 2200 block of Q, where Russell, all those 5 streets meet, that little pocket park. And so we go down there, and they in zoning is familiar with this New Vision Civic League, and they're like, well, what are they saying? What is their opinion? In other civic associations, they also we're part of the National Night Out in August, and also we do community cleanups usually in the spring.
Yeah.
Okay. These are all things I'm very interested in, and I'm like I've got your email address. I'm going to send you that link because I think you would be very interested in joining that meeting this Wednesday.
And also, just as a little side note, I will be joining the Urban Hope Advisory Board. I was invited, and Sarah Hill invited me, so I'm looking forward to working with them as they form an advisory board. So
yeah, that's exciting. That's
it
really
is.
good. Congratulations. You'll be a good voice for that, and especially with their growing presence, particularly in the Fairmount neighborhood.
Yes,
that's a big deal. So,
but don't tell them yet. Don't say it yet because I haven't gotten back to Sarah yet.
We're not gonna spoil it. I'm gonna send them this video. Yep. All right. Well, it is 10 o'clock. I want to respect y'all's time, but this was good. So just to recap, the call to action is for anybody that's hearing this. If you haven't done the survey, quick, simple 3-question survey. You can do it in 30 seconds. No excuses. Do it real quick. Let your voice be heard, because in February, we will make an official decision around the time, and then that will help us to then very quickly determine location, which the top contender seems to be the market at 25th, but we will weigh out pros and cons and make a decision so that by the spring we can shift into hybrid, so that there's no excuse to not engage. So thank you, everyone. Have a good.
Thank you, Sheena, for sharing it too.
Thank you.
Oh, and Sonny sends his apologies. He was planning on coming, and then it was early for me, not early for him because he's several hours away, but something changed and he wasn't able to make it, but he did send his apologies. So, all right. Well, on that note, go enjoy your Saturdays, and
Thank you.
I'll see y'all
Have a
next
good one,
month.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye. Nice to meet you guys.
Nice to meet you too.
Thank you, Chris.